On the outset, I would like to wish everyone a very happy International Women's Day. Now, all of us have gathered here for embracing new knowledge and, increasing our knowledge spectrum. So, on that note, I would like to talk about something which is mind over mouth. Now, what do you mean by this mind over mouth? Now, over the years, for many centuries together, we women have been regarded as a primary caregiver for everyone, be it a mother, a sister, a daughter, okay, or to our partners as a wife. So, over the years or over centuries, we have been regarded as a primary caregiver. So, it is our natural tendency that we know. We usually have this tendency to help others around us. So, at the same time, what happens is we neglect our own health. So, what happens in the long term? Over time, every morning we wake up, like me as a mother, every morning I wake up, my stress begins with what do I give the kids as breakfast? Okay. That also is something which leads to minor stress. Now we think that all these are normal day to day practices in our life, but we fail to realize that all these small things, the small things that if I wake up 5 minutes late, it is all going to go haywire. Okay. Now over the years, what we have seen is we know that there are a lot of stress related or anxiety related disorders which affects the oral cavity. Now all that was seen after a certain age group, say after 40 years or 45 years. Okay. But nowadays we are seeing a lot of young individuals, young girls, okay, young dentists for a fact, coming up with a lot of lesions arising in their oral cavity. Okay, I would like to share a case of our old student who just finished her BDS around 2 years ago. Now, she developed lesions in her mouth. Okay. She had gone abroad for studies and she just happened to send me a few photos saying that, ma'am, I'm having burning sensation. Is this what I think it is? Okay. So I told, yes, it is lichen planus. Okay. So she is just 24. So we are coming across cases where such lesions are developing at such a young age. Why is that happening? Well, it could be because of the environmental stress of starting over in a new place. So all these small things leads to bigger events in our body. So we have to know what are these stress, or anxiety causing activities that are going on in our body, which will help us, you know, make us a better version of ourselves by doing something which will help us in the long term. Now, we know a lot of students here coming up with pain in the temporomandibular joint. Okay. Media students are what aged between 18 to 23 years. Nowadays, the cases of temporomandibular joint disorders has increased drastically in these students. So, on that note, I would like to highlight that stress and anxiety is definitely a part and parcel of our daily life. We have to know what it causes and we have to know how to go around that circle and avoid causing or avoid taking the long term side effects of what this stress and anxiety causes to our body. Now, when we have stress, the amount of cortisol levels in our body shoots up. Okay. Now, we all know that cortisol to some extent is required for our day to day survival. But what happens when it is going on being released or it is, it increases more than what is required? So, what happens is it increases our blood sugar level, it results in weight gain, suppressed immune system, digestive problems, and also cardiovascular diseases. Okay. Now, this whole concept of our stress and anxiety affecting our whole body was put forth by a concept of biopsychosocial model of illness. Now, here it clearly says that everything it has a biological aspect, psychological aspect, and also a social impact it brings about. Okay. As you can see, for example, a patient is a HIV infected person. Okay. So that is the biological agent. That is HIV positive patient. What happens is psychologically he is burdened. Obviously, he is totally ostracized from the society. He feels or he or she feels, loneliness in life. And a social stigma is always present around this particular individual, which drives them to take a drastic step. So this is what you mean by biopsychosocial model of illness, which comes about when our body is faced to psychological or mental emotional stress. Now we all know that everything and anything what happens in our body can be reflected in our oral cavity. Okay. Our mucosa or oral cavity is designed in such a way that it easily picks up signals from everywhere else in our body. Now, this concept was put forth by Sigmund Freud, where each and every aspect of our life, our oral and perioral structures play an important role in showing us or showcasing us what is happening inside our whole body. Okay. Now, your body is in a state of constant stress. So what happens? You have a lot of chemical, biological stimulation which is taking place, which leads to release of some kind of neurotransmitters. Okay. So in short, what happens is when you're under psychological stress and there is inadequate coping or adequate coping is not enough. So what happens is in acute conditions, there is stimulation of your adrenal medulla, which in turn leads to release of prostaglandins and proteases. Now, all these, what happens is it releases interleukins and matrix metalloproteinases. What happens is these conditions leads to breakdown of our tissue structures. Now, how and when it affects, it varies from individual to individual. Now, in case of chronic stress, what happens is our pituitary ACTH is stimulated, which leads to increased production of adrenal cortisol. Now, all this leads to depressed immunity, which leads to infection and makes us more susceptible to even the most minute things. Okay. Now, we have this whole huge classification, and we have different authors who have given us various beautiful classifications of psychosomatic disorders. So, I just want you all to know what these psychosomatic disorders are. First and foremost, we know what is oral lichen planus. Then we have the recurrent after stomatitis, glossitis, chronic periodontal diseases, chronic temporomandibular joint disorders, okay, recurrent herpes labialis, leukoplakia, which is brought about by our neurotic habits, okay, physical and mechanical irritation from foreign objects, and various other things like your glossodynia, burning mouth syndrome, and dysgeusia. Okay, so there is a whole plethora of psychosomatic disorders which could arise directly or indirectly due to stress and anxiety. Now, now we heard a lot about this stress and anxiety related hormones. So what can we do? Okay, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I know I have some kind of a disorder or stress or anxiety. Now, how can we help ourselves? Okay, this is something which we have to do, which we have to take a motivation for ourselves and help our body overcome this. Okay. Now, God has beautifully designed us in such a way that, He has not only given us stress and anxiety related hormones. Obviously, we have something called as a good or happy hormones. Okay. It is just that we don't know how to utilize them. Okay. All of us have a good amount of happy hormones and good hormones inside us. We just should know how to channelize them in the right way. So, what are these happy or good hormones? Now, these are good feelings which come from brain chemicals. Okay, this has been developed over the years and over evolution. What has happened is these hormones are there produced in our body, but in short term, which helps us, helps us in our well-being or gives us a feeling of happiness. Okay, so those are nothing but your dopamine, endorphin, oxytocin, and serotonin. Okay, now you have two scenarios here. You have the lion which is chasing the zebra, and you have the zebra which is running away from the lion. So there are two things which are working here. Okay. One is the lion is, chasing the zebra because he wants to have his meal. Okay. At the end of the race, he is going to be rewarded by his meal. Okay. So in his body, it is a happy chemicals which are motivating him to run and approach his goal, which is the zebra. At the same time, the zebra is running for his life. Okay. The zebra is trying its best to escape the lion. Okay. So it is the stress and anxiety. It's a fight or flight situation for the zebra. So in the zebra, it is the stress hormones which is at its peak. Okay. So the same scenario, two different beings, but a happy chemical which is motivating the lion to reach its prey, whereas zebra running away from the lion is a typical example of a stress hormone playing its action in its peak. Now, these chemicals are not meant to flow all the time for no reason. Just imagine if you're always filled with dopamine or always stressed. No. So these always have their half life or their activity is very, very short lived. Okay. So happy chemicals, they turn on in short spurts. So always we have to do more to get more. So we have to stimulate our body to get more. So our happy chemicals are controlled by neural pathways built from past experiences. Okay, you know that you have your favorite food, or you're probably thinking about your favorite food. And we know that we will get some kind of a, satisfaction when we eat that particular food. So it is because of past experiences, we know that we're going to feel good. Okay. We go out with our friends for a movie. Okay. So we know that that experience or that particular experience with our friends is going to bring about a very happy experience for us. So these are built by neural pathways from past experiences. Okay. Now, let's see what triggers these happy chemicals in us mammals. First happy chemical which we are going to read about is dopamine. Okay. Dopamine is that feeling that you have a reward at hand. Okay. We motivate children, listen, you do well in your exam and probably, we'll get you a cycle. Okay. So that is what motivates them to do better. Okay. So that is released by dopamine. Dopamine is what motivates you to achieve a particular goal. Now, if you remember the old picture of the lion and the zebra, it is the dopamine present in the lion which is helping him achieve his goal of running behind the zebra. Okay. Now, it's the same feeling that a housewife gets appreciated for good meals. Okay. And that particular happy feeling you get rewarded at your work, your boss tells you, good job. Okay. So all that helps in release of dopamine. Okay. Now, dopamine releases the energy for the chase, which we already saw in this particular example. Okay. Now we know that at the end of the effort we put in, we are going to be rewarded. Okay. It's the same way that, your pet dog waits at the end of doing a particular trick. He waits for his treat. Okay. So it's the same way that dopamine, that is how dopamine works. You do something and you get rewarded for it. That is a typical way of how dopamine works. You get rewarded and you feel good. Okay. Now, this is my son when he was smaller. He's literally being thrown into the air by his father. So that particular trust, okay, he knows that even though it's his father who's throwing him up in the air, he knows that his father will hold him. Okay. That feeling, that bonding feeling is brought about by oxytocin. Okay. Now, oxytocin is often called as the love chemical or the bonding hormone. That is what creates a safe feeling, or it gives us a feeling it is okay to let down our guard and trust people. Okay. So that is what oxytocin brings about. Now, oxytocin is stimulated by trust, touch, by the process of birth, hug, and intimacy. So that is why you remember this old movie, Munna Bhai MBBS, where there's this saying that Jadoo ki Jappi. That is so true, because if you're feeling low, just go hug your mother, your daughter, your partner. You are definitely bound to feel better. Okay. Now, our brain has evolved in such a way that, we don't blindly trust or, let our guard down, because we don't know what is waiting for us. Just like how we have a wolf here in the sheep's clothes, we know that it is bad to let our guard down. So the release of this oxytocin comes out or comes about only with trust. Okay. So that is also an important factor for the release of oxytocin. And God has beautifully, programmed our brain in such a way that we know when to not fully let our guard down, because that would be like, accepting everything and anything. And that's why you would have seen small children, they have this stranger anxiety. So they don't blindly go with, people who they have not seen. They have to get used to that person. Okay. That is a typical example of letting your guard down and, imbibing that oxytocin only with people you're familiar with. Now, oxytocin is soon metabolized, so you have to keep stimulating it in order to enjoy that feeling of feeling safe and guarded. Okay. Next hormone is serotonin. Now, serotonin is a pleasure of social dominance. Okay. It is that feeling of, okay, I am standing here, I am presenting. Now, probably in my body now, I am at a peak of serotonin because I'm obviously talking and all of you all are listening to me. Now, serotonin is released when our actions benefit others. It also helps to regulate your mood as well as your sleep, appetite, digestion, learning ability, and also your memory. Now, serotonin is not always aggression. It's not like I'm standing here, I'm talking, you have to listen. No, that's not how it is. It's a feeling of, what I'm talking here is obviously going to be benefited by at least one or two individuals. Okay, so that is what is serotonin. It's not, a dominance or a dictatorship. No, that is not serotonin. It's a feeling of I'm saying something which is going to probably benefit others. Now, serotonin is also seen in, like, we have some students who are, a little brighter than the others. Now, when you call them up to explain something on the board, they come, they do the problem or whatever drawing that is on the board, and they feel standing there accomplished. Okay. That is also serotonin. Okay. So it is easy to see this in others, but it is also important that you recognize your own natural urge for social dominance. That does not mean you just go on a stage and start, dictating others. No, that is not how it works. Next is something called as endorphin. Now, this was a very famous photo which was viral a few years ago. Even though the deer is being mauled by the cheetahs, it has this look of calm in its eyes. Okay. It is looking at a distance, and that particular look in its eyes defies what is going on around it. Okay. Now it is being literally eaten up by the cheetahs. Now, if you dig deeper into this photo, it is basically the the mother deer is sacrificing. It can see its little one running in the distance. Okay. So this momentary calm, or the calm you can see in this deer's eyes, is nothing but the work of endorphin. Okay. So it is a natural pain reliever which is released by our body, which helps and mask the pain. Okay. Now, when all of us have some kind of a physical injury which is coming towards us, it is, a natural tendency that initially we feel a momentary feeling of numbness or pain. Okay. Why this happens is because endogenous morphine, it is what is being released in the form of endorphin. All of us would have fallen down, or we would have had some kind of a slip and fall at some point in our life. What happens is initially, just at the moment of the fall, we feel this whole warmth or numbness in our body. That particular feeling is basically the work of endorphin. Okay. That is what helps us momentarily pass that particular phase of emergency. Okay. Now, fortunately, you don't have to slip and fall to get endorphin. We can also get it by rigorous exertion. Like, you give a hearty laugh, you exercise, and even by crying, you get your dose of endorphin. Now, all these are ways in which, like, we heard of different good hormones. Now, we have reached a point in life where all of us are adults and we feel that, okay, can I do something now which is going to make a difference? Okay. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, all our myelin deposition takes place by the age of 8. Okay. Anything which is learned before we have this myelinated neurons is what, is going to be with us for a lifetime. Okay. So that is why we always tell, like, if you want to learn something, or if you want to learn dance, or learn how you want to learn how to play a musical instrument. Okay, so we always tell, start training them young. Why we tell that is because we want the learning to take place before the myelination of neurons take place. Anything after myelination takes place is a little more difficult for us to learn easily. Okay. So whatever you do feels normal with your myelinated neurons. Okay. What happens after that? Okay. That is one big question. What happens after that? Now, anything you learn after that makes you feel like you're doing something absolutely wrong. Okay. Now, for example, we all of us learn how to do extractions in our third BDS, or when we go into our clinical postings. Now, if you can remember your first extraction, okay, I'm sure if not the patient or you yourself would have been on the verge of a syncope. Okay, why? Because it's the first time you are actually poking an injection to a patient, to a living patient, and you are absolutely terrorized. Okay, it's like how it is in this meme. Your first extraction attempt is like almost feels like a first degree manslaughter. Okay, so that is your first experience because it feels absolutely dangerous to do so. The same way you get your driving license, or you just learned how to drive and you drive for the first time without anyone guiding you. Okay, you're absolutely terrorized. So, but what makes the difference? Okay, you do your second, third, fourth, fifth extraction. Over the time, it gets better. You feel like you're not doing something dangerous. So, what happens is when you want to try something new, if it is after the myelinated years, it is repetition which makes the difference. Okay, it's not like you can build Rome in a day. So, whatever you do, you have to keep repeating it, get better at it. Okay, so that is how we build new neural pathways. Old ones are already done. Okay, you cannot change it. But what you can do is you can build new neural pathways so that you can channel your happy chemicals in new ways. Okay. So repetition is what takes after the myelin years for you to imbibe a new behavior or a thought pattern over the years and repeat it. Okay. It's not like I have suddenly decided I want to lose weight. I'm going to, go to the gym and lift 50 kgs weight today. No, that's not going to happen. Everything takes time. You have to train your body and mind in a direction so that when you do it over a period of time, it's going to feel normal. Okay. Now, my take home message is this is my daughter here in the picture. She, I tend to call her like a little butterfly. She tends to find happiness in every little thing around her. So my motto is probably be half of what she does. Now this is we went for a wedding and she's happily playing with the decorations there. So we have to change our scenarios in such a way that make light of things around us. Don't be stressed always. Okay. We have to channelize our own happy hormones. And no one is going to come and tell it to you. It is our duty, to channelize your happy hormones. How can we do that? Okay. So to build a new dopamine circuit, we need to focus on small new goals each day and take steps towards it. Like how it says, be the best version of you. You can't do it probably in a day. It takes time. Okay. Find out the things which are stressing you, or find out, what is uh, affecting you in such a way that you're not able to, you know, plan and focus in life. Channelize your dopamine circuit. Next is build a new oxytocin circuit by taking a small step towards social trust each day. Now, this is very important because you need someone to, share your problems with. Don't bottle it all in. Okay. Whoever it is, it can be even your dog or a cat. Okay. So channelize it in such a way that you have someone to talk to. It, it's not a good idea to bottle down your feelings. It is always better to share it with someone, or at least that feeling of talking it out and probably building a social trust will help you over time. And next is build a new serotonin circuit by taking small step towards social importance each day. Okay. Now, in case you don't have the confidence to stand in front of everyone and talk, stand in front of the mirror. Okay. Stand in front of the mirror and talk to yourself. Okay. Boost your confidence by dominating your own self to do better than what you were yesterday. Okay. So these are all small things which can channelize your own happy hormones. Okay. So this is very important because we live in a world where everything is taken for granted, and stress and anxiety is a daily part of our lives. In case we don't stand up for ourselves over the years, it is all going to affect us and nobody else. Okay. So with that, I would like to conclude. Okay. So this is my dose of oxytocin in my department. So hopefully you all will also find your doses of oxytocin in your workplace, in your family environment, because it is very important that we share our anxiety and stress with others and not always bottle it all in, because that is no way going to help you other than probably giving you a lot of medical issues and a whole truckload of medicines to deal with. Okay, we have to empower ourselves, and our happiness is in our own hands. Okay, with that, signing off. Thank you.